The Grand Hall of the Galactic Council fell silent as Ambassador Alan Mitchell stepped up to the speaking platform. His face showed no emotion, though his knuckles turned white as he gripped the edges of the podium. Behind him stood his aide, Samantha Green, holding a small digital tablet. The massive chamber housed representatives from over 200 species, all seated according to their status and influence. Humans, despite their contributions, had always been relegated to the outer rings. Esteemed members of the council, Alan began, his voice steady and clear. For 3 centuries, humanity has served this body with dedication and ingenuity. We have offered solutions to crises, mediated conflicts between species that could not understand each other, and contributed technologies that benefit all. Murmurs rippled through the assembly. The Zoraxian representative, a tall blue-skinned being with 4 arms, made a dismissive gesture. This was not unusual. Human suggestions were often met with such reactions. Today, I come not with another proposal for you to ignore, Alan continued. Instead, I bring humanity's formal withdrawal from the Galactic Council, effective immediately. The chamber erupted. Some species chittered in their native tongues, while others rose from their seats. The council leader, Elder Morvath of the ancient Vesperi, banged his ceremonial staff for order. "This is an unprecedented action," Elder Morvath said when the noise subsided. "No species has ever withdrawn from the council once admitted. Ambassador Mitchell, surely this is a negotiating tactic." Alan shook his head. "It is not. Our decision is final." He nodded to Samantha, who stepped forward and placed the tablet on the podium. "This contains our formal resignation, with full documentation of the 372 occasions when human warnings or solutions were dismissed, only to be implemented later when suggested by more respected species. On Earth, billions watched the broadcast. In the Oval Office, President Olivia Warren stood surrounded by her advisors as the feed from the council chambers played on the wall screen. Her face showed a mixture of determination and regret. "Are we doing the right thing?" asked Vice President Daniel Rousseau. Olivia nodded slowly. "They need us more than they know. Sometimes you have to walk away to make people understand your value." Back in the council chambers, the Alvari representative, a small feathered being known for their wisdom, spoke up. "This is a grave mistake. The humans provide balance to our deliberations. Their unique perspectives." "Their primitive perspectives," interrupted Councillor Thrax of the Zoraxian Empire. "Let them go. The council existed for millennia before these mammals evolved. We will continue without their endless complaints and emotional outbursts." Alan's expression didn't change. He had expected this reaction. "We wish the council well," he said simply. "Humanity will now forge its own path among the stars. We will not close our borders or cease trade, but we will no longer be bound by council directives or limitations." He stepped down from the podium, and the human delegation rose as one. 200 men and women from Earth and its colonies, all in the formal blue uniforms of the diplomatic corps, turned and walked toward the grand doors of the chamber. "You cannot survive alone," called out a voice from the Thresik section. "The galaxy is too dangerous for independent action." Samantha Green paused at the doors and looked back. "We have always been alone," she said quietly, "even here." The doors closed behind the human delegation with a soft but final thud. That evening, as ships prepared to carry the delegation home, Alan stood by a viewport looking out at the council capital world. Its 3 moons hung in the sky like silent witnesses to history. "So it begins," he said to Samantha as she joined him. "Did we do the right thing?" She handed him a data pad showing incoming reports. Already, 3 mid-level council species had sent requests for private trade agreements with Earth, bypassing council regulations. "Yes," she replied. "They'll learn soon enough." Alan nodded. "Let's go home." Around them, the vast machinery of the galactic civilization continued its work, unaware that the first small threads holding it together had just begun to unravel. 3 months passed after humanity's withdrawal from the Galactic Council, At first, little seemed to change. Trade continued, though now through direct agreements rather than council oversight. Some species quietly expressed support for the human decision, while council leadership insisted all was well. Then the first crisis struck. Dr. William Carter stood on the porch of his cabin in Montana, watching the sunset paint the mountains gold. His communication device beeped for the 12th time that day. He ignored it. Since leaving his position as lead epidemiologist for the Council Health Commission, he had sought peace in isolation. The device beeped again, more urgently. With a sigh, he picked it up. "Dr. Carter," came a desperate voice. "This is Under Secretary Valix of the Health Commission. We face an emergency. Please respond." William stared at the device for a long moment before answering. "I am no longer with the Commission, Undersecretary. My replacement was chosen 3 months ago." Dr. Yolanda Kerr is overwhelmed, Valix admitted. "A pathogen has emerged in the Centauri sector. It attacks plant life vital to 15 species. Already, food systems are failing." "What happened to the early warning protocols I designed?" William asked, already knowing the answer. A pause. "They were modified after your departure, deemed unnecessarily cautious." On his wall screen, William pulled up news feeds from across the galaxy. The situation was worse than Valix suggested. Death counts scrolled across the bottom. Refugee ships were being turned away from healthy systems. Panic buying had emptied food reserves. "I warned the Council about the vulnerability of cross-species agricultural networks 5 years ago," William said. "My report was dismissed as human paranoia." "We acknowledge that mistake now," Valix said, desperation clear in his voice. "We need human insight. Your insight." William closed his eyes. He had left the Council willingly, agreeing with Earth's decision. But watching millions suffer went against everything he believed as a doctor. In the Council chambers, representatives shouted accusations at each other. The elegant decorum that had defined meetings for millennia had vanished. The Thrisic Empire clearly engineered this pathogen to weaken our borders. A representative of the Pellerin Alliance bellowed, his feathers bristling with anger. "An outrageous lie." The Thrisic ambassador responded, her scaled skin flushing dark purple. "Perhaps if the Alliance had not blocked the human quarantine measures 3 years ago, we would not face this disaster." Elder Morvath banged his staff repeatedly, unable to restore order. On a screen behind him, statistics showed the pathogen spreading to new systems hourly. On Earth, President Warren met with her crisis team. Screens showed the unfolding disaster. "We have received 16 official requests for help," said Secretary of Interstellar Affairs Julia Bishop, plus dozens of unofficial pleas from individual planets. "And our official response?" asked Warren. "That we are studying the situation," Julia replied. "But Dr. Carter and his team believe they have a solution. The question is whether we offer it freely, withhold it as leverage, or somewhere in between." President Warren looked around the table. "Humanity left the Council because our voices weren't heard, not because we stopped caring about the galaxy. We won't use suffering as a bargaining chip." The next day, William Carter boarded a fast ship bound for the Centauri sector. With him went a team of Earth's best agricultural scientists and a treatment protocol developed overnight. No conditions were attached to the help, though every container and ship bore the clear insignia of Earth, not the Council. As his ship jumped to faster-than-light travel, William thought about the messages flooding in from former alien colleagues. Some were grateful. Others seemed angry that humans were needed. Most were simply afraid. 6 weeks later, the pathogen was contained. Food production slowly resumed. The death toll stopped climbing. In a private meeting room on a neutral space station, William met with Undersecretary Valix. "You saved millions," Valix said. "The Council wishes to formally thank Earth." William shook his head. "No thanks needed. But perhaps next time, listen when warnings are given." Valix's expression fell. "There are more crises coming, aren't there?" William gathered his notes. Humanity warned about 3 major vulnerabilities. This was only the first. As he walked away, William's communication device beeped with an urgent message from Earth. The second tremor was beginning. 6 months after humanity's withdrawal, the galaxy faced a new crisis. The Galactic Communication Network, the backbone of interstellar civilization, began to fail. Jack Rodriguez woke to the sound of his emergency alert. As former head of the human maintenance crews for the quantum relay system, he had kept his old communication channels open out of habit. Now they flashed with urgent messages from a dozen alien species. He rubbed his eyes and checked the time. 3 in the morning in Arizona was midday at Council headquarters. Jack opened the first message. System collapse at Relay Station 47. Read the text from his former assistant, CERN. Quantum entanglement degrading at 7% per day. No one can stabilize it. Jack scrolled through the other messages. Similar problems at stations across the network. He had warned about this possibility for years. The relay system depended on delicate quantum mechanics that required a particular approach to maintenance. Humans have a knack for quantum intuition, he had told the Council Technology Committee. We need to train more species in our methods. But the Vorex representatives had insisted their purely mathematical approach was superior. They had taken over after humanity left. Now the system was failing. Jack's phone rang. It was Karen Lewis, head of Earth's new independent communications authority. I'm guessing you've seen the reports, she said without greeting. Yes, it's happening faster than I predicted. The Council has officially requested our help, Karen said. They're offering significant concessions to get our maintenance teams back. Jack looked out his window at the desert sunrise. What's the official response? President Warren wants your input before deciding. The Council ignored our warnings about the communication system. Should we let them face the consequences? On the frontier world of New Seattle, human colonists watched the crisis unfold with mixed feelings. Governor Pete Morgan had led the planet's separation from Council oversight 4 months earlier. Now their independent communication system, based on human-developed technology previously kept proprietary, was the only reliable link in the sector. Another alien ship requesting emergency access to our network, reported Communications Director Linda Foster. That makes 17 today. Pete looked at the display showing the alien vessel in orbit. Same terms as the others. They can use our emergency channels if they share their supply manifests and trade honestly with our merchants. Across the galaxy, the effects spread rapidly. Trade slowed dramatically as ships lost reliable navigation data. Food shipments to worlds recovering from the recent pathogen crisis arrived weeks late or not at all. Financial transactions that once took seconds now required physical couriers carrying data crystals. In the council chambers, the mood was grim. Elder Morvath faced angry representatives from dozens of worlds. How could we allow such critical infrastructure to degrade? Demanded the Pellerin ambassador. The Vorex assured us their methods were sufficient, Morvath replied wearily. The Vorex representative stood, his crystalline body glinting under the chamber lights. The system design was flawed from inception. Human inefficiencies were built into its core. We require more time to implement our solutions. A harsh laugh came from the Thresic ambassador. More time. While worlds lose contact with each other. While medical emergencies go unanswered because distress calls cannot be received. The humans warned us this would happen. On Earth, President Warren sat with her advisors reviewing the Council's desperate plea for assistance. They're offering a lot, noted Secretary Bishop. Full recognition of our independent status. Favorable trade terms, even seats on the Inner Council. All things we requested before leaving, Warren said. Jack, can your teams fix this? Jack nodded. Yes, but it will take months. The damage is extensive. And if we do nothing, complete network collapse within weeks. Billions will suffer. Some isolated worlds might not recover for years. Warren was silent for a long moment. We didn't leave the council to watch the galaxy fall apart. We left because they wouldn't listen. She looked around the table. We'll help, but on our terms. No return to the Council. We work independently, training their people in our methods. 3 days later, ships carrying Earth's best quantum engineers launched toward the failing relay stations. Each engineer carried technology previously kept secret under Council restrictions. Each was instructed to teach, not just repair. As his transport approached Relay Station 47, Jack felt a mix of vindication and sadness. He had spent decades building this network. "We're receiving thank you messages from 57 systems," his pilot said. With communication networks faltering, the galaxy faced its third major crisis. Peace treaties, once easily monitored, became difficult to verify. Border patrols lost coordination. Defense systems, many designed by humans, missed critical updates. Admiral Nancy Chen stood on the bridge of the Earth vessel Intrepid, watching a tactical display of the Krell-Vorex border. Red warning markers showed ship movements on both sides. "The Krell are moving their battle groups into position," reported her tactical officer. "The Vorex are responding in kind." Nancy shook her head. For decades, she had served as the architect of the Council's mutual defense protocols. Now she watched as her careful work unraveled. "Any response from the Council peacekeeping fleet?" she asked. "None, Admiral. They appear to be deployed to the wrong sector entirely." The tactical officer paused, then added, "According to our sources, they followed the standard response matrix in the defense computers." Nancy nodded. "The matrix I specifically warned needed human oversight because it couldn't account for cultural factors in conflicts. On the frontier world of Verita II, human settlers watched as 3 Kravosk war vessels entered orbit. The Kravosk, a species of natural warriors, had been contained by Council treaties for generations. Now they tested boundaries. Colony leader Jeff Wilson received the Kravosk commander in the settlement's meeting hall. "Your defense grid is outdated," the Kravosk stated without greeting. His translator rendered his growling speech into flat English. "You require protection. We offer it in exchange for resources." Jeff kept his expression neutral. "We appreciate your concern, Commander, but our defenses are adequate." The Kravosk made a gesture of disbelief. "Your human-designed shield system has not received Council updates in months. It is vulnerable." "It has received our updates," Jeff corrected. "Human updates, not Council ones." Before the Kravosk could respond, a small alert sounded. The settlement's shields activated, creating a subtle shimmer in the air. "A demonstration," Jeff said calmly. "Our sensors detected your ships activating weapons systems. An automatic response." The Kravosk commander's expression changed to one of surprise, then careful respect. He departed shortly after, his ships leaving orbit immediately. Not all frontier worlds were so fortunate. Without human military advisors, Council defense planning faltered. Species with ancient grudges found openings to settle old scores. In the Council Security Committee, representatives argued bitterly. "The human withdrawal has emboldened pirates across 3 sectors," complained the Alvari delegate. "Our trade vessels are under constant threat. Perhaps if the Council had valued human security insights, we wouldn't face this crisis," replied the Pelleran representative. "Now we must increase our military spending to compensate." Elder Morvath listened with growing concern. Military escalation had been rare under the Council's oversight. Now arms races developed between former allies. On Earth, the Defense Ministry monitored the deteriorating situation. General Sam Baker, reviewing the reports, turned to President Warren with grave concern. "The situation is accelerating faster than predicted," he said. "Without our strategic input, the Council Military Committee is making critical errors in deployment. Flashpoints are developing in a dozen systems." "Casualties?" Warren asked. "Minimal so far. But 3 species have already announced major military construction programs. If this continues, we could see real wars within months." Warren studied the galactic map. "What are our options?" "We've received unofficial requests to return our military advisors," Sam replied. "The Council won't ask formally yet, but individual species are desperate for help. And if we do nothing? Sam pointed to simulation data. Worst-case scenario shows major conflict within 6 months. Millions of casualties. Warren was silent for a long moment. Prepare a proposal. Not rejoining the Council, but a limited military advisory mission. Strictly humanitarian. Will help protect civilian populations and trade routes only. Admiral Chen received her new orders with mixed feelings. The Intrepid would lead a small fleet of Earth vessels on a goodwill tour of troubled sectors. They would offer defensive upgrades to vulnerable systems, regardless of Council affiliation. Will it be enough? Asked her executive officer as they prepared to depart. No, Nancy admitted, but it might buy time. The galaxy is learning a painful lesson about interdependence. As the Earth ships moved into position near troubled borders, messages flooded in from grateful worlds. Other messages, intercepted from Council military channels, showed growing resentment of human interference. 1 year after humanity's withdrawal, the fourth crisis emerged. The Council's diplomatic course, once effective at preventing conflicts, found itself overwhelmed. The subtle art of interspecies negotiation faltered without human mediators. George Rivera sat in his garden in New Mexico, enjoying the morning sun. After 30 years as Earth's senior diplomat to the Council, retirement had been his reward for a career spent building bridges between vastly different minds. His quiet morning was interrupted by the soft ping of his secure communication device. He glanced at the message and froze. It was from Zilv, the Miraxian ambassador. The message contained only 3 words. They are coming. George encrypted a brief reply and sent it to a private relay station. 6 hours later, a small ship landed in his field. A single Miraxian emerged, moving quickly to the house. Ambassador Rivera, Zilv said, his translucent skin pulsing with stress colors. I come unofficially. 3 star systems in the Outer Rim are approaching open conflict. The Council's mediators cannot establish common ground. George offered his visitor water. The Council has hundreds of diplomats. Surely someone can help. Zilv's skin darkened. None with your skills. Humans have a unique ability to understand opposing viewpoints simultaneously, to find paths where others see only walls. In the Council chambers, the diplomatic crisis unfolded publicly. Representatives from the Outer Rim pleaded for intervention as tensions rose between the Lakmar Syndicate, the Drex hierarchy, and the Keth Confederation. We need immediate neutral mediation, urged the Lakmar representative. Our mutual defense systems will activate automatically if diplomatic channels remain closed for another cycle. Elder Morvath looked exhausted. All available mediators have been dispatched. We must find a path to peace ourselves. The humans could solve this, someone said quietly from the lower tiers. A murmur of agreement spread through the chamber. Morvath slammed his staff down. We governed this galaxy long before humans evolved. We will solve this crisis without them. But his words lacked conviction. The Council's diplomatic corps, trained to manage stable relationships, proved inadequate for the rapidly evolving crisis. Without humans to bridge the vast cultural differences between species, misunderstandings escalated dangerously. On Earth, the Department of Interstellar Affairs debated a critical question. Should humans re-engage with Council diplomacy? Director Laura Mills presented the options to President Warren. We've received unofficial requests for diplomatic assistance from 27 species. 3 major conflicts are developing, with millions of lives at risk. And the ethical considerations? Warren asked. Complicated, Laura admitted. If we help, we validate the Council's system that marginalized us. If we don't, innocent beings suffer for their leaders' mistakes. Warren studied the reports. What does George Rivera suggest? He proposes a new approach, independent human mediators, operating outside Council structures. They would facilitate direct agreements between species rather than working through Council frameworks. The President nodded slowly. Make it happen. But be clear, we are not rejoining the Council. We are helping species who ask directly for our assistance. Within days, human diplomatic teams deployed to conflict zones across the galaxy. Their approach differed radically from council methods. Rather than imposing standardized solutions, they adapted to each species' unique psychology and cultural needs. At the edge of Lakmar space, George Rivera met with representatives from all three conflicting powers. They gathered on a neutral station, specially configured for the meeting. "I'm not here to judge who is right," George began. "I'm here to help you find what you truly need, not just what you think you want." The Drex representative, a being of living metal, made a sound of skepticism. The council sent 17 mediators. All failed. "I'm not from the council," George replied calmly. "I represent Earth. We approach diplomacy differently." Over the next 3 days, George did something no council mediator had attempted. He asked each species to explain their grievances in their own cultural frameworks. He listened without imposing council standards of reasonableness. When the Keth insisted on ritual combat as part of negotiations, he found a way to incorporate it symbolically rather than dismissing it as primitive. On the 4th day, the 3 species signed a preliminary agreement. Not peace, but a path toward it. Similar scenes played out across the galaxy. Human mediators achieved in days what council diplomats couldn't accomplish in months. Their methods were unorthodox but effective. 18 months after humanity's withdrawal, the 5th crisis struck at the heart of galactic civilization: its economy. Markets that had been stable for centuries plunged into chaos. Trade routes, already slowed by communication problems, now faced a new threat as the financial systems that supported them began to collapse. Lisa Pidle stood at her office window at Stanford University, watching students cross the campus. As former economic advisor to the council treasury, she had spent decades building models that stabilized interspecies trade. Now her screens displayed those models breaking down. Her assistant entered with fresh data. "Another 12 systems have suspended trading," he reported. "The Vorex exchange has lost 60% of its value in 3 days." Lisa nodded. She had predicted this. Her final report to the council, submitted just before Earth's withdrawal, had warned that the galactic economic system required constant human refinement to remain stable. "The system looks mathematically perfect," she had explained to the Treasury Committee. "But it fails to account for emotional factors in decision-making across species. Our human intuition about market psychology is what keeps it working." The Vorex representative had dismissed her concerns. "Your species insists on injecting unnecessary complexity," he had said. "Our pure mathematical models are superior." Now those models were failing catastrophically. Lisa's secure communication device chimed. It was Counselor Thept of the Treasury Committee, a being who had once openly mocked her work. "Dr. Patel," the message read, "I humbly request your assistance. The situation exceeds our ability to control." In the council chambers, panic spread as financial reports came in from across the galaxy. Critical resource supply chains were breaking down. Rare elements needed for everything from medicine to ship repairs became scarce almost overnight as traders hoarded supplies and credit systems failed. "How could this happen so quickly?" demanded the Pellerin representative. "Our economic models were certified stable by the finest mathematical minds." The Vorex delegate could not meet the eyes of his colleagues. "The models failed to predict emotional responses to market shifts. We did not account for panic buying, hoarding behaviors, or loss of trust in institutions. All factors the humans repeatedly warned about," Elder Morvath said quietly. On the frontier world of Proxima Colony, Governor Maria Fletcher faced difficult choices. As human settlements had developed their own independent trading networks, they had weathered the economic storm better than most. Now desperate alien merchants arrived daily, seeking stable currency and trading partners. "Another convoy from the Drex systems is requesting permission to dock," reported her trade minister. "They're offering technology exchanges at 90% below market value. They're desperate for basic supplies." Maria looked at the growing list of requests. "We can help some, but not all. Prioritize medical supplies and food distribution. No price gouging. We're not here to profit from suffering. Across human space, similar scenes played out. Earth's economy, now largely independent from council systems, provided a stable center in the growing chaos. Human traders extended credit to alien partners. Human financial experts offered free advice to failing markets. On Earth, President Warren met with her economic advisors. The situation was grim but not unexpected. "We warned them for years," said Treasury Secretary Frank Lopes. "Our models showed this exact scenario if human psychology factors were removed from the equations." "And our options now?" Warren asked. "Limited," Frank admitted. Dr. Patel believes full recovery would require reintegration of human economic principles throughout the system. That means either rejoining the council or forcing them to adopt our methods. "Neither is acceptable," Warren said firmly. "What can we do without compromising our independence?" "We can stabilize critical supply chains," Lisa Patel suggested, joining the meeting via hologram. "Focus on essentials: food, medicine, ship parts. Let luxury markets find their own equilibrium." Warren nodded. "Make it happen. And make sure everyone knows this help comes from Earth, not the Council." Within days, human economic teams deployed across the galaxy, focusing on the most vulnerable systems. They brought with them new financial tools, developed on Earth after the withdrawal, that were designed to work with or without Council oversight. In the Alvari system, Lisa Patel met with local financial leaders. Their world, once prosperous, now faced shortages of critical resources. "Our solution isn't complex," she explained as they gathered around emergency supply manifests. "You're thinking like mathematicians, not traders. People don't make decisions based only on numbers." As the second anniversary of humanity's withdrawal approached, a massive delegation representing over 30 species entered the Sol system. Their fleet of diplomatic vessels, flying the colors of individual worlds rather than Council unity banners, moved slowly toward Earth. Security Captain Benjamin Foster stood on the bridge of the defense vessel Guardian, watching the alien ships approach. As commander of Earth's defensive fleet, he viewed the delegation with professional caution. "Over 200 vessels detected," reported his sensor officer, "all running with weapons systems powered down as agreed." Ben nodded. "Maintain position. No aggressive postures, but keep shields at full strength." The alien fleet was unprecedented. Never had so many Council species united for a diplomatic mission. Their approach had been announced weeks in advance, with continuous communication to avoid misunderstandings. On Earth, President Warren prepared to receive representatives of the delegation at a specially constructed neutral site in Geneva. The historical symbolism was not lost on galactic observers. Geneva had long been Earth's center for international diplomacy before humanity reached the stars. "What do we know about their proposal?" Warren asked her advisors. "Only that they come to discuss humanity's role in galactic stability," replied Secretary Bishop. "The delegation is led by Elder Morvath himself, which suggests the highest level of seriousness." Warren raised an eyebrow. "The same Elder Morvath who once referred to humans as clever primates unready for true galactic citizenship." "The very same," Bishop confirmed with a slight smile. "Apparently near collapse of galactic civilization has a way of changing perspectives." The first shuttles began landing at the Geneva facility. Security was tight but respectful. Earth wanted to show neither weakness nor hostility. The diplomatic corps, led by veteran ambassadors like Alan Mitchell and George Rivera, had prepared for weeks. Elder Morvath was the first to emerge from his shuttle. The ancient Vesperi looked frailer than humans remembered, the stress of recent crisis evident in his posture. Behind him came representatives from species across the galaxy, former enemies now united by common desperation. "President Warren," Morvath began when they met in the central chamber, "I come on behalf of a galaxy in crisis. The withdrawal of humanity has revealed truths we were too proud to acknowledge." Warren's expression remained neutral. "And those truths would be that despite our technological advancement, despite our ancient civilizations and mathematical precision, We lack certain qualities that humans possess naturally. The words clearly cost Morveth significant pride. In orbit, Captain Foster received a priority message from Admiral Chen. The Intrepid had intercepted communications suggesting disagreement within the alien delegation. Some species favored offering humans true equality. Others sought merely to entice them back into subordinate roles with better terms. Be alert, Chen warned. This delegation is not as unified as it appears. Inside the Geneva facility, the formal presentation began. The delegation had prepared extensive documentation showing the cascading crisis that had struck since humanity's departure. More importantly, they brought evidence of reforms already implemented in council structures. We have restructured the council voting systems, explained the Alvari representative. Species contributions are now weighted by practical results, not historical status. The Technology Committee has been completely reorganized, added the Vorex delegate, his crystalline form dimmed with humility. Human intuitive approaches are now valued equally with pure mathematics. President Warren listened carefully, but her response was measured. These changes are welcome, but they address only symptoms of a deeper problem. The Council's fundamental structure assumed humans would adapt to your ways, never that you might need to adapt to ours. Elder Morvath bowed slightly. You are correct. That is why we propose not merely reforms, but a complete restructuring of galactic governance. Equal representation, mutual respect for different approaches. As the discussions continued, both sides laid out their positions. The alien delegation made it clear they needed humanity back. Earth's representatives were equally clear. They would not return to the old system. Outside the conference room, Alan Mitchell spoke quietly with Samantha Green, remembering their departure from the council 2 years earlier. Did you ever imagine we'd be here? Samantha asked. Them coming to us. Alan shook his head. I expected some recognition of our value, but not this complete reversal. 5 major crises have a way of focusing attention. The final negotiations took place on neutral Luna, Earth's moon. Representatives from over 50 species gathered in a dome overlooking the stark lunar landscape. Through the transparent ceiling, Earth hung in the black sky, a blue reminder of what humans had fought to protect. Dr. Sofia Martinez led Earth's diplomatic team, her expertise in interspecies communication making her the ideal choice for this historic moment. Once a junior aide in the Council, she had risen to become Earth's foremost expert on galactic cultures. The Collaborative Accord, she explained, displaying the framework on large screens, differs fundamentally from the Council system. It recognizes that different species contribute different strengths. No approach is inherently superior. All are necessary. Elder Morvath studied the proposal carefully. The ancient Vesperi had lived through many changes in his long life, but none so dramatic as the dissolution of the council he had served for centuries. You propose specialized roles based on natural aptitudes, he noted. Humans would handle crisis response, intuitive problem-solving, cultural mediation. Yes, Sophia confirmed. While Vorek's mathematical precision would guide long-term planning, Alvari ecological wisdom would shape sustainability practices. Krell defensive instincts would protect shared interests. The chamber buzzed with conversation as species considered their place in this new arrangement. Some embraced it immediately, seeing the logic in leveraging natural strengths. Others hesitated, clinging to the familiar hierarchies of the old system. On Earth, humans watched the proceedings with mixed emotions. For many, the memory of council dismissal remained fresh. President Warren addressed these concerns in a global broadcast. This is not surrender or return to subordinate status, she assured her people. This is recognition that isolation, while proving our worth, cannot be a permanent solution. The galaxy needs what we offer, and we, despite our independence, are still part of a larger community. The negotiations continued for days. Technical experts from hundreds of fields joined to hammer out details. Admiral Chen worked with alien military leaders to design new defensive protocols. Lisa Patel collaborated with financial ministers to create economic systems that balanced mathematical precision with psychological reality. Jack Rodriguez led a team reimagining communication networks built on diverse approaches to quantum mechanics. On the seventh day, resistance from traditionalist species still threatened the agreement. Centuries of council tradition had ingrained hierarchical thinking across the galaxy. Some could not imagine a system without clear superiors and subordinates. In a bold move, Sophia Martinez proposed a demonstration. She gathered representatives in the Lunar Observatory and asked each species to solve a complex problem using only their traditional methods. Predictably, all reached partial solutions with significant blind spots. Then she had them work in mixed teams, combining approaches. The results were remarkable. Problems that had stumped the finest minds for generations found solutions in hours. This is the essence of the Accord, Sophia explained. Not humans returning to save you, or you accepting us back, but all of us working together as equals, each contributing our unique perspectives. The demonstration shifted the momentum. Even traditional species began to see the potential in this new approach. Projections showed catastrophic costs if the galactic civilization continued its decline versus remarkable growth under the proposed system. On the final day, Elder Morvath made an unexpected gesture. The ancient alien, once dismissive of clever primates, approached the human delegation privately. "In my long life," he told them, "I have rarely admitted error, but in our treatment of humanity, we were profoundly wrong. We saw your differences as flaws to be corrected. We now understand they were gifts we needed desperately." The signing ceremony began at lunar dawn. One by one, representatives approached the central platform. Each added their species mark to the document, using their traditional methods, some with electronic signatures, others with DNA samples, still others with ceremonial seals. President Warren was the last to sign, using an old-fashioned fountain pen brought from Earth. The symbolic weight was lost on no one. Humans, among the youngest species present, using one of their oldest technologies to sign one of the galaxy's newest agreements. "The collaborative accord is now in effect," announced Sophia Martinez. "The transition begins immediately." As council ships prepared to depart, carrying the first human liaisons back to implement the new systems, Admiral Chen stood with Ambassador Mitchell on the lunar surface. They watched the vessels rise into the black sky.